members of the Pride, and welcome to our latest tips and tricks video for shortest trip to Earth. Now, this is not a comprehensive list of all the tips and tricks that you can possibly do. This is simply things that I have learned in my playing of this game, little things that I wish I had known when I had first started playing the game. Just little things that I kind of learned simply by just trying and doing and seeing what happens and finding out, hey, this works and this doesn't. So hopefully this will be helpful to you, so here we go. This tip is all about combat strategy, and there's a couple of different ways you can go about fighting any given ship that you're coming across here. And basically, it falls into several different categories of what you could do. I'm going to briefly go over each one of the 4 primary methods that I've come across. Primary method number 1 is targeting the energy itself. You can see down here that there is a certain amount of energy on any given ship. And if you possess weapons that have EMP, such as this one, or if you just have high accuracy items to be able to target the power itself, you could potentially just utterly annihilate their power, and you won't have to worry about ever fighting these guys again, because without power, they're incapable of doing anything. They can't fire weapons, they can't power shields, they can't do anything. So if you have at least 1 or 2 EMP weapons, such as what I've got here, an EMP here and an EMP here, and you can successfully target these energy reactors here, you pretty much have a dead ship, and you can kill this ship pretty much at your whim. The second strategy involves targeting the bridge here and the energy here. You want to target them both. By targeting the bridge, not only are you ensuring that this bridge will be incapable of using its evasion bonuses, but you'll also kind of throw the entire ship into some disarray, because nothing will be able to be run unless there's an actual crewman on the guns and on the item itself. From the bridge, you could technically run the entire ship, but if you disable the bridge here, then, as you can see, they currently have people on each gun. But if you were to afterwards, if these guys were to get distracted by, say, fires or by something else, those guns are no longer going to be able to fire. So it serves a double purpose. Not only does destroying the bridge, or at least rendering it inoperable, reduce the overall evasion, which is important, but it also potentially kills the crew members and distracts the rest of the crew members from being able to do what they would normally do. And you want to target the engine, because usually, and now in this particular case, the ship's evasion is pretty low, but quite often the ship's evasion can be very high, and damaging or destroying the engine will make it so that the evasion will be reduced even lower. As in this particular case, the engine adds 8% of the evasion, and if you combine that with the bridge here, as you can see, the bridge adds another 8%. If you were to disable or destroy both of those, the evasion would be shrunk down to 2%. In other words, it becomes essentially a sitting duck. The third method is a very popular one, and that is to target the weapons themselves. By targeting each of the individual weapons, you stand a chance of either disabling or destroying them. And of course, if the weapons are disabled and or destroyed, the ship can't fire back at you. This has pros and cons. For the pro is that, of course, you're preventing the guns from being used against you, and this is, of course, a good thing. But the con is that it can often be somewhat of a trial to actually hit and destroy these weapons. Each one of these slots is somewhat difficult to hit, And being able to do enough damage to permanently destroy these items can often be difficult. Now, disabling them will prevent them from firing back, but there's also the other problem of there could be a lot of weapons. Like in this particular case, I have 4 weapons on my ship. I have four weapons here. I could target one on each one of these and potentially reduce the amount of fire coming back at me. But in this case, what would be the smarter thing to do? Should I target one weapon per weapon on the enemy ship? Or should I come over here and target 2 weapons per power source and render the entire ship useless? As I said, this particular strategy has pluses and minuses. If there's only a couple of weapons, it can be very effective. But if a ship has tons of weapons, this just is a very bad idea. And generally speaking, it's a case-by-case basis. The final strategy has nothing to do with the enemy ship, but has everything to do with your ship. Your ship, depending on what ship you are using, has the ability to be able to equip lots and lots of weapons. Now, those weapons, of course, require power, so there's a bit of a balancing act, but it's possible to be able to put 6, 8, 10, lots and lots of various weapons, whether they're energy weapons or autocannons or missiles, whatever your particular energy needs can handle. If you can handle it, you can put more weapons on. Now, this has the potential to be kind of a real balancing act, because you also need to be able to have some shields, you need to be able to have some sensors, you need to be able to have, enough power to be able to run all of it. But if you can get overwhelming firepower going on your ship, you could potentially just burn down the enemy ship before it has a chance to react. You could target anything and everything on the ship, and it's not going to matter. It's simply going to be overwhelmed simply by the number of weapons being fired at it. The bridge, the different weapons, the different sensors, every module on this ship could potentially get hit simply because you're firing 8, 10 weapons all at once and just blazing this thing down. This is a very popular tactic, and it's a very effective tactic, but it also requires a lot of resources to be able to make work. Like, for example, in this particular case with the Blue Star, most of the slots I have here are either container slots, which cannot be upgraded, or they start out as internal slots. And internal slots can eventually be upgraded to internal core, and then from internal core to hybrid, and then from hybrid finally to weapon slots. And that's a lot of upgrading requiring a lot of resources. If you can get it to that point, boy is it effective. But up until you get to that point, it can be a real trial trying to get to that level of firepower. So this is more of a late game kind of strategy. But if you can get to that point, it is incredibly effective. The next little tip is one that I kind of wish I had learned a long time ago, and it kind of pleasantly surprised me when I realized that this was possible. This right here is the Cryo Dream Recorder number ×2, the Lover's type. There's also a single version of this, but I have the one that can accommodate 2. Now you can put people into here, and while they're in here, they don't require any organics, it heals wounds, and it also records their dreams as Xeno data. Well, okay, so that's fine if you've got some people who are hurt, right? Well, let's take a real close look at this. As you can see, I have my 2 cats in there, because the cats are essentially pretty much useless. Pets, unless they actually serve a particular purpose, don't really have much of a purpose. You can use them as sort of like little emergency, in an emergency you can use them as bridge or as shields and all that different stuff, but they're completely unreliable. They're much better if you put them inside the Cryo Dream recorders, and that way, while you're putt-putting around, as you can see over here, their dreams are making me money. You take an otherwise completely useless crew member and turn them into something useful. Every once in a while, you'll have the opportunity to either pick up or take as a perk what is known as a genetically engineered combat animal. These things are awful. They're absolutely not worth the perk points or the when you find one in your in your travels. If you happen to get one of these things, get rid of them. While their shipboard combat is okay, they're capable of fighting pretty well when they're on board. If you happen to get boarders, the amount of food they eat is ridiculous. As you can see, 30 food per 100 range moved. To give you an idea, your average crew member eats 5. They're absolutely not worth it. If you happen to get stuck with one, shove him into your cryo chambers as quickly as possible. And as soon as you can get to a place where you can offload him, get rid of him. He's an absolute waste of time. The SOS signal is not just a way to get yourself out of trouble. Now, obviously, if you find yourself out of fuel or out of food or something of that nature, you can always just sit exactly where you are and hit the SOS signal. And that's fine, and random things will come along, and you might get lucky and you might not. But you stay there long enough and you fight enough things, eventually you'll get enough food and fuel to be able to move on to your next sector. And that way you're not burning up yourself or killing your crew unnecessarily with starvation. However, the SOS can be used for other things as well. For example, if you just want to grind some gear or grind mods or grind some experience, every time you hit this SOS, something's gonna come. It might be good, it might be bad, it might be something incredibly positive, or it might be something incredibly negative. But you're not gonna know until it actually happens, and you'll be able to find out for sure if you're going to get something good. But even if it's something bad, you'll be able to fight it, and you'll be able to get more items. You can also use this to be able to take advantage of space stations in the area. For example, if you were to stay here and hit the SOS button repeatedly over and over, gathering more and more items to be able to convert here and gather up more stuff here, let's say, for example, you have a few things here that you'd really like to buy, and let's say you really want to buy this biological medical organism, but oh darn, I just don't have enough here. What a pity. Well, that's okay. You can simply stay here, hit the SOS button, and keep fighting things, keep selling things to the trader until basically they run out of space to be able to sell you anything. And chances are you'll be able to get up enough credits to be able to buy up pretty much everything that you want at any given starbase. Usually you're not going to want to buy more than 1 or 2 things at any starbase anyway, because most of the stuff they'll sell you is stuff that you don't really care about. But if you're needing to save up for a bunch of damage, for example, like you see here, I've taken quite a bit of damage here, and I'd really like to be able to gain enough credits to be able to repair all this damage before I move on. Well, SOS to the rescue. Here's a little trick that not a lot of people realize until much later in the game. But you can actually utilize these perks that you get to something of an advantage that a lot of people simply overlook. Your fate points, you have a certain amount of fate points that you start with. Your first sector points are 31 fate points just to begin with, and 31 doesn't really do very much. However, 31 will get you the ability to be able to take this Friend of Truth permanent bonus. you can click this. You can just go ahead and start the game, and yeah, you can use them up, because the whole point of that was to get the permanent, those permanent points. Then you retire, start a new game, start a new run. Pick anything you want. I mean, you can pretty much choose any ship you like, and as you can see, the permanent abilities are still there. Now you do have to unlock each one of these little permanent things right here. But once you're able to get as many of these unlocked as you can actually start with enough to be able to start getting more permanent abilities. So let's say since I've got 51 for this particular run, I think I'll just go ahead and take this permanent ability. And then, oh well, I didn't use them all. That's alright. We'll just go ahead and restart again. And we're going right back to here. And, pick any one of them. And, hey, what do you know? I have 51 again. And I've got enough to be able to get yet another permanent perk. And these all stay with you no matter what. And the more permanent perks you unlock, the more you can constantly get throughout your entire run. You don't have to complete them. You don't have to do anything with them. You simply take them, move it through, retire your game, and you have everything that you need. Oop, try that again. And you have all the new perks. Boom, boom, boom. And it really is very simple to do this almost from the very beginning. I believe you need to do at least one run before you're able to start this little pattern. And forgive me, I don't remember off my head if these were available from the first run or not. But if not the first run, definitely the second run, you should be able to start getting enough points as long as you're opening up these permanent perk points here. You just need to be able to add permanent fate points so that you can start with more of them. And then once you start with enough to be able to start tagging them, you can just start taking them more and more until you can literally get all of the points, all of the permanent perks you have available. And then from there, on your next run, then you can just utilize your perks as you usually normally would. Pretty neat, huh? I have a lot more tips and tricks to be able to give out, but for now I think this video has gone on long enough. If you would like to be able to learn more about those tips and tricks, please do the liking and the subscribing and the commenting down below to make sure that I know that you're interested in finding out more. And perhaps if I get enough likes and interest in these tips and tricks videos, then I'll make some more. But in any case, guys, that's going to do it for this particular episode. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, as I said, do the liking and the subscribing and the commenting down below. You guys are absolutely fantastic fans, and I truly appreciate every single one of you. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, everyone, always remember that anyone can be a mouse that roars, but it takes someone special to be a lion that squeaks. So embrace your inner lion and squeak on! And let's go kick some rat butt, because let's face it, nobody likes the rats. I mean, the squids are nasty and the slavers and but nobody likes rats. They're just nasty.